So guys, the first wave of regionals is finally over after 4 weeks of some gruesome Kaiser and Yi torture, if that's what you want to call it. It's finally come to an end, and we can finally give our post-Chinese regionals meta ranking. So starting off with Annie. Now Annie we didn't see much of. We saw 38 Annie decks taken to regionals over the 4 weeks, and only 3 of them ended up reaching top cut, which is not the best conversion rate. It's about 8 or 7%. Thing with Annie, she's not really solid. She hasn't been defined properly. A lot of these decks you see are very experimental. None of the decks are really too similar when you see them in the meta. For me, she's going to go straight into not quite there. I think there is a lot of room for improvement. Potentially future sets can fix the issues that Annie is facing at the minute. She is also part of the Proving Ground set, which was meant to be bad because it's for newer players to get into the game. Now obviously we've seen with Master Yi that doesn't matter. So I think she has struggled a bit at the start because of a lot of factors like that. Future sets potentially could help her out. She's part of Purple. I personally believe Purple's gonna get a lot of improvements in future sets. So with that, Annie will probably get improvements as well. Only time will tell. For now, not quite there, but could do some damage. So following on from Annie, we've got Ahri. Now Ahri, we saw 69 Ahri decks taken 2 regionals across the 4 weeks. Only 7 of these decks ended up top cutting, which is about 10%, which is better than Annie, to be fair. My thoughts on Ahri at the minute: there's nothing special about Ahri. She isn't really strong against any of the top meta decks out there at the moment, but she's not bad either. A good player can take that deck and have some good games, potentially reaching top cut as well. Again, 10% chance, 1 in 10, that's not terrible. For me, she's kind of middle of the pack at the minute. Like I said, nothing special, nothing bad. She's gonna go solid. You could definitely take her to regionals and have a good time. Definitely one to consider. Now we have Darius. Now Darius for me is a bit of an anomaly in these Chinese regionals. We only saw 37 Darius decks in total, which is 1.8% of the meta, and only 5 of these decks reached top cut, with the average best placement of 83. Now, to me, that just seems crazy. The fact that not as many people were taking Darius to regionals, because he's a very, very good deck in my opinion, and also how poor of a performance he had at regionals. Now, it's a small pool, so it's not as accurate with the data. For me, Darius is one of the only decks that can have good games into both Master Yi and Kaiser, which are the 2 strongest in the meta at the minute. With that being said, I'm going to go against what data we have for now. He's going to go in contenders for me. I really think Darius, in the right hands and with more people playing him, I think we'd see a lot more Darius in top cut, doing a lot better than he currently has shown to be. Really, really shocking for me, honestly. Definitely something I'd like to see more of at regionals and bigger tournaments like these. For example, the only tournament we've had in the West that's had a big prize pool, Darius won it. So, just with that being said, I'm shocked that we didn't see more Darius, and I think in the future he will do a lot better than we're currently seeing him do. So definitely consider playing him. Strong contender for me. The fact that he's not top cut more is a genuine shock. And moving on from Darius, we have got Garren. Now, Garren I think is the okay, maybe Lux as well, but Garren is the only legend in that Proving Ground set which Riot got correct and made it bad on purpose, which is what their intentions apparently were. For me, people have been trying so much shit on Garren, honestly, and it's just not been working at all. We've seen 5 Garren decks go to regionals, 0 have top cut. Okay, his average best position is 345. That is so bad. He has to be in Stay Clear. He can't be in anything else because he's just not good. I don't think future sets would fix him, really. I think he's just not a good legend, which is fine because that's how he was designed to be. So unless you want to have fun and experiment, don't touch him. I do think part of the reason we saw 5 decks in the first place was because Riot were awarding the best placing decks for each legend at the regionals. So I imagine those 5 people, or the people that brought the 5 decks, were just going for that, and that's why he was in there. Because otherwise, why are you taking Garren to regionals? You're not going to win. It's just not happening. Now we've got Lee Sin. Now Lee Sin is a bit of a weird one from these regionals. He's kind of been a bit of a letdown in the sense that we saw 53 decks taken to regionals, which was 2.6% of the meta share, which was 8th best, by the way, out of 16. So like bang in the middle. And he didn't top cut once. 0% conversion rate, which is pretty bad. His average best placement was 69, so he literally just missed top cut, which is very interesting. Lee Sin has never been anything special for me. He doesn't really compete very well with the best decks. People have been trying stuff on him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously he got very close to top cut, but just didn't quite make it. So big letdown. He's gonna go not quite there. Just because he literally was not quite there. Average best 69. He was so close. Just not quite there though. Following that we got Sett. Now Sett is a really interesting one. Originally in the West, before regionals, before the big tournaments, Sett was considered one of the best, if not the best. Obviously a lot has changed. Cards were revealed after that. Sett has fallen off quite a bit now, especially with the dominance of Master Yi and Kaiser, who both seem to do pretty well into Sett. We did see quite a bit of Sett. We saw 74 decks taken to regionals, with 9 of those top cutting, which is pretty good. It's a 12% conversion rate, which is one of the better conversion rates. It's definitely a solid deck. For me, he's going to go in solid. I'm going to put him at the top of solid. I'm not really going to order these, but he's definitely got a shout for top of solid. Some would probably say contenders. I'm not going to put him in contenders for now, even though the stats say he did better than Darius, which is kind of crazy. Don't shoot me, guys. If there was a tier in between these two, he'd definitely be in there, because he is good. Don't get me wrong, he is good. Probably better than I'm giving him credit for. But he's just... I think the fall off has really hindered my judgment on him. He's not too special, basically. He has struggled a bit, but he's still very good. Don't get me wrong, he's still very good, for sure. Moving on to Jinx. Now, Jinx has not done very well since pretty much release, to be honest. They've never really competed at the top. They've never really had a good shout at winning any of these tournaments, whether it was regionals or even tournaments before regionals. You just never see it doing very well. I don't know what its issue is. Aggro is just not the most popular at the minute. I think the meta is shifting though to a point where aggro could come back into the swing of things. So maybe we will see more Jinx. Maybe this is foreshadowing that she is going to become good. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. The meta is constantly shifting. I think every single week of regionals, there was some new kind of development which shifted the meta. And especially week 3 and 4, I think were the biggest changes in the meta for me that I witnessed. With Yi and Kaiser, which we'll get onto later. It's the reason I put them at the end. For me, Jinx though, at the minute, she is bad. She's not good. Until there's a meta where aggro is solid, I think she will stay in bad. I think she has the right cards for it, but again, it's just the meta's not suited for it at the minute. She just can't get over the Yi and the Kaiser dominance. So for me, she's quite bad. Next we've got Teemo. Now Teemo's a very interesting one again, because before regionals, none of the West thought he was good. Nobody really gave him any credit. Obviously, you got his fans which like him and just play him because they like Teemo. But in terms of actual performance, he just didn't do very well. No one really gave him an actual try. But China loved him, and week 1 of regionals even, they showed that he can be good with his high cost purple units. So he did a lot better than people thought he was going to do. However, going off the data that we've got, right, so we saw 104 Teemo decks at regionals, which was the 5th highest played legend out of everyone. Only 8 of those decks ended up reaching top cut, which is very low considering the amount of decks. It's a 7.69% conversion rate. So you can see, I don't know what it is. Again, I think because Teemo has got one of the biggest fan bases in League of Legends, in Riftbound, and whatever, I think a lot of people played him purely because of that. And potentially that has what caused that low conversion rate. For me though, again, like I said, people who were good at Teemo and brought the decks, they surprised a lot of us at how good Teemo actually was. And it awoken a lot of the West players to how good he can be. And people started playing him a lot more, right? I think meta, he has done pretty well. I think future sets will help him. Again, with the purple, I think purple's going to get better. He's going to go solid for me because he is good, right? He can compete. A good player will take him far into a tournament. So for me, he's solid. And I think he will only get better over time. Moving on to Victor. Now, I said Lee Sin was the letdown here. Victor actually is probably the biggest letdown out of any deck for me. Now, again, speaking what I said about Sett earlier, Victor was part of the 3 which everyone thought were the best decks in the game when it first was announced and all these cards were revealed. And he's just fallen so far since then. It's actually kind of embarrassing. And it's kind of sad because he's such a cool character and such a cool concept of going wide. We saw 281 Victor decks in regionals, which was the 3rd highest out of any legend. Only 15 made it to top cut. That is 5%, just over 5% conversion rate. That is really, really bad for how many decks we saw. I don't even know what the reason could be. I don't know why so many people played him and so many just didn't make it. I mean, I don't rate Victor that much, and that is obviously the reason why, because he's not that good of a deck. But the fact that so many people brought him is honestly mind-blowing to me. I want to put him in solid. But I really think his past, like the fact that he was so good at the very start, is boosting that for me. And I think realistically, he has to be in not quite there. I think a lot of people have come to the consensus that Victor has not been figured out yet, and that there is a lot of room for improvement with him. Maybe it's just a case of needing more cards from future sets. But, you know, I hate to keep saying this, like future sets will fix these cards, because we don't know, and at the minute, they just aren't good enough. For me, maybe this is controversial. Let me know what you think, guys. This is just my opinion. I'm going to have to put Victor in not quite there. He just hasn't done well enough at all. And he's just been on a downwards trajectory in terms of how good he is in the meta. For me, he's just not quite there. That's just how it is. I'm sorry. So next we got Lux, another Proving Grounds legend. Now Lux is kind of similar to Garren, where she's just not very good. We saw 13 decks, only one of them made top cut, which is, you know, it's a small data pool. Yes, one of them made it to top cut. We don't know much about this player, what kind of player they are. Maybe they're really good. Maybe they got a good run for Lux. Who knows, right? She's just not consistent at all. And she's just not good enough against many of the decks. For me, she's going to go stay clear. I feel weird putting a deck with Garren, to be honest. Maybe she should be bad. But she's just not good. I don't think much will save her, potentially. I think it would have to be a very experimental deck or just a massive shift in the meta. And also a massive shift in what we've got in the card pool at the minute. But for now, she's with Garren. Stay clear. Next up, we got Miss Fortune. Miss Fortune, personal favourite of mine. She's a deck I've been playing a lot more recently because she has been really good recently. We saw 131 Miss Fortune decks taken to regionals. Somehow less than Victor. Less than half of what Victor was seen, which is crazy to me, considering how good she is into Kaiser and can be decent into Master Yi as well. She's going into contenders. I'm not even going to talk about this too long. She's above Darius as well. She's like the third best deck at the minute. She's very easy to pick up. She's not complicated to play, in my opinion. Quite a low skill floor. If you're new, try her out. She's good. She'll probably be quite expensive on game release because she uses a lot of big units, which are going to be the more expensive units as well because of their rarities. But yeah, we've seen her consistently perform. We saw what, a 12.2% conversion rate, which is really, really good. She will probably stay at the top for quite a while, at least while Kaiser is so strong. And to be honest, that is basically Miss Fortune in a nutshell. As long as Kaiser is strong, Miss Fortune will also be strong for the most part, because she is kind of a bit of a direct counter for Kaiser, so she is good. The big units, it's just too much for Kaiser to get over, which makes Miss Fortune so strong. It's just Aurora. Kaiser doesn't really have ways of dealing with Aurora, and if a Miss Fortune can get going and ramp fast enough, there's just nothing Kaiser can do against it. It's just too much. So that's why she's the third best at the minute, in my opinion. That's why she's so good. Definitely one to take. Following that, we got Yasuo. We saw 16 Yasuo decks, 0 of them top cut. He's just not good at the minute. He's quite a hard champ to play well because he's very technical, very techy, a lot of cards which you have to think a lot about before using. He's going in bad. Again, this purple color, it might help him out later on. For now, it's just not good enough though. He's going in bad. Following that, we got Leona. Now, Leona is... I really like Leona. I like her concept, but at the minute, Sett 1 just hasn't helped her out enough. She hasn't got enough support. She's not done too well at regionals. 22 decks in total, one of them reaching top cut. Again, not enough data really, but also not enough people trying her out because she's probably not that good. Okay, she's going in not quite there. I do think she will get support in the future, and I do think she will go up ranks in the future because of that. She does have a lot of potential, but for now she's just not quite there. She is good into Master Yi, but she kind of gets dominated by everything else, especially Kaiser. Kaiser is a big counter for her, which is the biggest drawback because we see so much Kaiser in the meta. But yeah, one to watch, but not to be played at the moment. Moving on to Volibear. Now, Volibear, again, we see a lot of Aurora decks with Volibear, like Miss Fortune, but Volibear is just, it just doesn't do as well as Miss Fortune. I think it's the units that he has access to. The purple units of Miss Fortune are a big improvement, or a big advantage for Miss Fortune, over Volibear, which is why she's so high, I think, because she gets a lot of use out of those units. Whereas Volibear, he doesn't get much out of those big red units. His legend ability is alright, but it's just not anything compared to Miss Fortune. For me, he's going to not quite there. I think over time, if he gets better red units, he could go up very easily. But for now, he's just not good enough. He's very similar to Miss Fortune, where he will always be good as long as Kaiser is good. Because in the same sense, if you get Aurora going, then Kaiser struggles, and she can't get back into the game at that point if it's too late. So yeah, not quite there, but has potential to go up. Okay, so moving on to Master Yi. Okay, one of the big two, the ones we've all been waiting for, right? Master Yi has dominated regionals along with Kaiser. We saw 520 Master Yi decks, which is 25% of the meta. and we saw 82 of these decks top cut, which is 50. It's almost 16% conversion rate. Okay, very, very good performance from him. Now let's break it down week by week for him, right? So weeks 1 and 2, we saw your standard Yi decks, low units hold up into Kiana, into Master Yi, into White Flame. We even saw some Sett Brawlers and even some Dead Blooms here and there, right? Very, very standard Yi decks. Not much change between week 1 and 2. Moving to week 3, however, we did start to see some change. We saw Rampy Yi make his first appearance, which did a lot better against Kaiser. It was a lot more efficient against beating her, and she struggled quite a bit against him. However, she did end up winning still, but it was a lot closer than I think people had seen in previous weeks. And potentially, if people had more time on the Rampy, I think Rampy probably would have won, because I do think Rampy probably is better than the Kaiser deck we see at the minute. But Kaiser won, that's how it is. Going on to week 4, however, we probably saw the biggest shake-up of the meta we've seen throughout regionals. We saw so much Aurora Yi and so much Ramp Yi. It was crazy, honestly. We finally saw more Yi than Kaiser decks in a regionals weekend for the first time. Again, there were so many of both anyway that it didn't really matter, but we saw slightly more Yi this time. And Aurora Yi was just too much for Kaiser to handle. Top 4 was just Yi players. No Kaiser in top 4, which is crazy considering she won the last 3 weeks and she dominated top cut in the last 3 weeks as well. I think week 3 or week 2, 50% of top cut was Kaiser, which is mental, by the way. And so a lot of people were thinking that Kaiser was tier 0, but I think just now with Ramp Yi, with Aurora Yi, people have started to realize Kaiser isn't the best. She is able to be beaten. So it'll be interesting where it goes from here. It'll be interesting to see if Kaiser decks change that much. I don't know if there is much room for her to change. But for me, Yi is just... He goes in the best, obviously. I mean, these are both going to go in the best, let's be honest. I think they're very, very close, though. Look, talking about Kaiser, let's move on to her now. She is, in my opinion, I think her deck is very refined. I don't think there's much more people can figure out with Kaiser. I think people could change the deck completely now, potentially to counter these Aurora Yis and to beat these Rampies as well. But in terms of the standard Kaiser decks we've been seeing, maybe a couple cards here. I don't know though. I do think Kaiser is pretty much figured out. I think she will still continue to just dominate the meta despite these Aurora Yis and Ramp Yis. I think if anything's going to shake it up, Yi will probably drop in performance because another deck will come in that will be good against Yi. But I don't think any other decks are really going to come in that will be super good against Kaiser that causes her to drop off so much. Looking at the stats, we saw 576 decks, which was the highest of any legend. And we saw 108 of those top cut, which is the highest of any legend. And we saw, so that's an 18.75% conversion rate, which obviously is the highest of any legend. 3 wins in regionals, very consistent, very, very strong. She is probably the best deck at the minute. But with that being said, it could change up, okay? Things could change up over time. I do think Kaiser will stay at the top though, and I don't think that's going to change much. But looking at the final ranking, guys, obviously we got Kaiser and Yi in the top. MF and Darius, maybe controversial. I'm pretty solid on this though. Very underrated in my opinion. In the second tier. And then solid, we got Sett, Ari, and Teemo. The rest, I'm not going to go over the rest. If you're a new player looking at this game, thinking what you should be playing, what you should pick up to get started, what's going to actually do well, look at the top 3 here. Obviously, the top being the best, but any from these 3 tiers, you're probably going to have a good time. Good way to get into the game. Definitely ones to pick up. If you're experienced or you just want to play the best, these top 2 for sure. I think these top 2, any of these 4 have a chance of winning a regionals. I think we're just waiting to see it at this point. But yeah, that's going to be it for my tier list, guys. Let me know what you think below. Let me know if you think anything you disagree with. Maybe Darius you disagree with, who knows. But let me know. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.